Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Kamsi. Welcome to today's episode of Young Africa's Connects. We are so excited that you've joined us on this series. This is part of a monthly series hosted by the MasterCard Foundation, aimed at inspiring, engaging, and connecting with young people across the African continent on pivotal topics that matter to each and every one of us. I'm so excited to engage our amazing panelists, which are going to meet in a minute, about a very, very interesting and important conversation. And I really want this to be extremely conversational. So, throughout this conversation, if you have comments, if you have thoughts, please feel free to leave comments in the chat box and we'll definitely get to your questions at the end of our session. We're so excited to receive everyone. We're so excited to have this discussion with everyone. And of course, today we're diving into a very, very important theme and very in line with this month, which is International Women's Month. You know, we've been celebrating women all across the world, globally, and of course here in Africa. And so it's only fitting that our conversation today is on championing women in leadership, and of course, accelerating inclusion in line with this month's theme of accelerate action. So we're talking about how do we go from these big, bold ideas, this big, bold, policies into actionable and tangible steps that prioritize and put women in the forefront of leadership positions, right? This is a very, very, very important conversation. And I think that it is very, very relevant and it is very, very urgent. And so we'll be exploring different ways in which women and of course allies are leading the charge in their respective industries and what we can all do, regardless of whatever background we're from, whatever field of industry we are in, whatever sphere of influence we exist within, and how can we be part of this conversation? How can we push for more inclusion and for more support for women in leadership positions? So that's our little intro, and I'm so excited to have everyone join us on this call and on this episode, this month's episode of Young African Connects. Right, so I have the pleasure of moderating a very, very distinguished group of change makers. We just had a little bit of a chat right before this call, and I can tell you that each and every one of them are amazing and doing amazing things and doing brilliantly in their different fields of influence. And I'm not going to waste too much time. I want us to take a moment to introduce our amazing panelists. So I want them to introduce themselves. I feel like, you're the best person definitely to tell us more about yourself and what you do. So I'm just going to call in no particular order our amazing panelists to tell us a little bit about themselves. So let's start with, first of all, Chido. Tell us where you're joining us from, and of course, tell us about what you do, your mission, your work.
Thank you so much, Kamsi. Hello, everyone. My name is Chido Nyarwata. I'm an African feminist based in Zimbabwe, Harare, Zimbabwe, and I run an organization called Flames and Lilies Climate Initiative. We are a youth-led eco-feminist organization working to achieve gender and climate justice in Zimbabwe and beyond. We primarily work with adolescent girls and young women in urban and peri-urban areas, and we promote climate education and feminist participatory action research skills. We hope to create leadership skills of these young change makers to ignite the flame within, in line with our title, Flames and Lilies. Beyond my organization, I'm a lover of stories and I weave stories through research, photography, and digital storytelling. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chido. That was an amazing and beautiful introduction. Let's hear from Mary.
Thank you so much. My name is Mary Ajambo. I am from Uganda. I'm a founder of Matla Hearts organization. We envision a society where every child and adolescent girl thrives through education and empowerment. We design programs that help children from vulnerable communities register education outcomes, and that is literacy programs. We also work with adolescent girls by breaking barriers in girls' education, addressing issues of menstrual health and hygiene, sexual reproductive health. We also have a girls fund that allows the girls to transition from primary to secondary education and complete it. With Motherly Heart, we also create safe spaces that help the girls to build their self-esteem and be empowered on their education journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria. That was an amazing introduction. So let's hear from Lula next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lulade, and I'm a visual artist and a curator, and I'm honored to be here today. And for me, life itself is art, not just what we create on canvases, but how we express and reimagine and tell our own stories. And growing up in Ethiopia and now living in Kigali, Rwanda, I've come to see art as a tool of self-discovery and connecting and creating connections and transformation. And through my work, I focus on amplifying voices, especially for women, creating spaces where new narratives can emerge. And I believe that we're all artists and shaping our lives with every choices that we make on a regular basis on the daily. So I am excited to be part of this conversation, and specifically also women in leadership and inclusion in the creative industry. And I look forward to learning from you all and sharing what I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Lula. We're so glad to have you here in this conversation. And let's go to Alexander, our only guy, our only gentleman of the conversation today, our ally. Please introduce yourself. Everyone is so eager to meet you.
All right. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Alexander Odhiambo. I'm a tech founder, and I'm an entrepreneur and a co-founder and CEO of a tech company called Solutech. Solutech is a tech company that our mission is to help African businesses make data-driven decisions. So a lot of our customers are manufacturers and distributors in different sectors, be it cooking oil, be it cooking flour. Any manufacturer or distributor who has tons of salespeople who go out there to sell every day, we help them digitize the process, have a visibility of who's working, where they're working, what they're selling, where they're selling from, who they are selling to just bring about sustainability in these businesses. So apart from that, as a founder, I'm an employer of both men and women. So this conversation is very, very relevant. I'm a husband and a twin dad. You know, being a twin dad, a husband and twin dad, is a crazy combination. So there's a lot to talk about women related stuff also. And I'm a twin dad. So I'm a twin dad and also a girl dad. I also have a daughter. So which makes this conversation very interesting for me. So apart from that, I'm very passionate with mentorship of not just of young people, be it ladies or gentlemen, youth, or even peers. Yeah, and I'm so happy to be here today to participate in this conversation as the only gentleman.
Thank you so much, Alexander. It's really nice to have you on this conversation. And last but not the least, let's hear from Njeri. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and your background.
Hello, Kamsi. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Njeri Irongo. I would best be described as a social impact lover. I run a co-founded initiative called Beyond Borders for Her. We exist as a community-based organization based in Mathare, Nairobi. We promote economic inclusion opportunities for women and girls in Mathare, as well as run an initiative to help women make reusable sanitary towels. We also advocate strongly against period poverty and give them an opportunity to get capacity building training around menstrual hygiene and so much more. Beyond that, I also work for an organization called Alliance for Women and Girls in the fundraising and development department. We are a network of gender-focused organizations across Africa. So far, we exist in 23 African countries. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Wow, thank you so much, Njeri. We have a fantastic panelists of amazing people doing amazing things and amazing initiatives, breaking barriers, at the forefront of breaking barriers, advocating for inclusion, and really putting women in the right positions of leadership to advocate for the next generation of African women. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you guys. And of course, joining us is our amazing sign language interpreter, Rose, who is doing a really fantastic job right now, ensuring that everybody's included in this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to be facilitating this conversation with everyone on this call. So let's just get started. I'm really, really eager to learn from everyone here. I'm honestly here to learn from you. I'm sure everyone that is tuning in right now is here to learn and understand what exactly and what is our part to play in this conversation of women in leadership, and how do we accelerate inclusion, accelerate action, right? And so I want us to just first of all just start with, understanding the different perspectives of each and every one of us when it comes to this particular topic. And so I want this first question, I want everyone to share their perspective and their background and how it relates to, of course, like our conversation and our theme for today. So the first question is, what motivated you to start your initiative? And how has your journey shaped your perspective on gender inclusion and leadership in Africa? And that can come from, of course, different perspectives, from your initiative, from your own personal life, from things that you've noticed even while being on field, right? And how has that shaped your perspective on gender inclusion and leadership in Africa as a continent? And so I really want to start from, Njeri with this question, and we can go from there.
Thank you so much, Kamsi. First, to note that I started doing this whole social impact initiative when I was around 17 years old. I used to do mass fundraising, to go to children's homes, and I'd rally my friends and family to, come behind me. And so sometime last year, I accompanied my friend to Mathare during the floods in Kenya. It was a really sensitive issue and so much was going on. And when I went there, I almost broke down, because then, first of all, I was keen to notice that I was privileged not to have gone through the same issue, but then also watching millions of families and schools that didn't have enough resources. And so that's when we came together with my friend and we were like, okay, that time we went to, donate some toiletries and pads, and then we were like, how do we make this change sustainable and make it make sense? So that's when we came up with the whole initiative, Beyond Borders for Her, and we are legally registered. And we decided, especially in informal settlements, the problem is deeper than you think it is. So sometimes you'll be solving an issue, but then you're dealing with just a symptom. You're not dealing with the actual issue. So had a conversation with my friend and we're like, what you can do is promote capacity building and do it at their level. Because then you can't go there and you're speaking big terms and nobody gets you, and also create solutions for problems that they need to be solved. So that's when we decided to come up with the whole initiative, and so far so good. We've done so many trainings. We've also established a good rapport with the women. We've also been able to understand their issues in depth, because there are quite a number of issues that they face, and also devising solutions that we can have to be able to solve those challenges. Yes, thank you, Kamsi.
Thank you so much for sharing that. One thing I love and I took away from what you said is that you went on the ground and you saw a problem and you acted on it. It really speaks to everything we're saying about accelerating action. It's a lot of times, we encounter a problem, encounter a challenge. We know that we always think that it's too complicated for us to do anything about it, right? But the truth is that we can actually do very big things from a small place. This is something I've learned and I continue to learn, is that we think that we do not have anything to give, but from our own small corners of the world, we have a lot to give and a lot to show. And I really love that you took that kind of initiative. So thank you so much for sharing that. I would love to hear from Chido on this topic. I know that this is something that is she's very passionate about as a feminist, as a self-proclaimed feminist. I really love that. So please share your perspective of your initiative, what motivated you to start it, and how your journey has shaped your perspective on this conversation.
Yeah, so with Flames and Lilies, it took some time for me to get the courage to actually start my organization. I had been within the gender and climate space for about 4 years, and I had been seeing that there was a disconnect between these two critical areas. So you would find that maybe in some circles they would just be talking about gender and then the environment, or the environment and women, and the way that women were spoken about, it was that we were victims and not that we could champion change in our communities, even though that women and girls are interacting with natural resources due to their social norms that we created in our society. So what I wanted to do was to create a space where young girls could come and enhance the knowledge that they already have about the environment and climate change, because our organization works from the experience, from the perspective that lived experience is a valid form of knowledge. What we need to do is just to enhance it with maybe some of the scientific information so that they have access to correct information so that they can take initiatives that are contextually relevant, but actually have the tools to take the necessary steps. So what we've done, I actually started off training girls on WhatsApp. And I think it was from the principle of use what you have. So at the time when I started, I didn't have money to have in-person trainings, but I had worked with an organization called Girl Up, and they had expressed some interest to enhance their participants' knowledge on climate change. I think living in a country like Zimbabwe that is prone to different climate events, whether it's droughts, heavy flash floods, in 2019, we experienced Cyclone Idai, and that was quite devastating, especially for people who live in the eastern part of the country. So it's critical for us to know what it is and what steps we can take. And from that WhatsApp group, I was able to collaborate with 3 other organizations that focus primarily on empowering girls and young women. And it was through those partnerships that we were able to reach about 80 plus girls to capacitate them on the different elements of climate education, but also on disaster risk reduction. And it was such an amazing process because I think when you say, like in Jerry, you see a problem, you go, but then you realize that no, I'm addressing a symptom. The only way that you actually really understand to the root problems is going to communities, creating dialogue, allowing them to also feel like they are knowledge bearers, because I think a lot of the times we can come with our assumptions into a space and say, oh, because I have a degree, or oh, because I'm coming from here, I know what the problem is. But in actual reality, you are going to learn so much more. And I think that has been a core aspect of my journey as a founder of Flames and Lilies. But as a creative in the space, it's been really interesting. I've loved using the arts to educate people, but also to put this in our programming. So one of our key activities is a climate story initiative where we give our participants paper, pens, pencils, paintbrushes, and we ask them 3 questions. Who are you? What are some of the environmental and climate challenges that you've had? And what hopes for the future do you have? And so many of them have loved it. For some, it was the first time that they got to sit down and to visually see their climate story. So I think this has been, some of the highlights and the experiences of my journey with Flames and Lilies.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. Something you said that stuck with me is lived experience is a valid source of knowledge. That is something that I'm going to come to again and again, because I think a lot of times we look down at what we have experienced. We don't think that we are knowledge, carriers, like you've said, based on what we have experienced. And we don't realize that we can use our own experience to make a change in the world in our own little way, right? And so that's really, really, really profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's hear from Mary up next.
Thank you so much. My life experience has motivated me to start my initiative. I grew up and I carried the double burden of poverty and gender inequality. I am one of those girls that walked miles to school and uncertain if I would drop due to lack of school fees. And my life changed when I received a university scholarship through the kindness of President Ained. And this made me realize that education is a privilege that is denied by many African girls. Later in my life, I survived gender-based violence, and I saw firsthand how lack of education fueled vulnerability among women, leaving them trapped in situations that they do not want. And that's when I learned that when girls have access to education, they can reclaim their power. And that is why I founded Motherland Organization to first of all to turn my pain into the purpose and ensure that no girl has to fight these barriers alone, but be empowered to thrive. And my journey as a leader, I've been able to see that leadership is a responsibility to create pathways for others. When we stand up as leaders, we should be able to create opportunities for other people. Like through our organization, we're able to provide scholarships for adolescent girls to transition into secondary education, which is through the Girls Fund. In 1 year operation, we have 5 girls who have turned back to school, and we envision where we can expand this support and see that many girls join maybe at a university level. We have also seen that education is we're using education as a tool for systematic change, giving the girls the power to make informed decisions and live a dignified life. Thank you.
That is so, so, so beautiful. Like, that is so beautiful. What you said about turning pain into purpose is something that is incredibly inspiring. I think that truly education gives women power that a lot of times without, they don't realize what they are able to accomplish. They don't realize who they are, like what they even have to give to the world. So what you're doing is incredibly, incredibly beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mary. I think I would love to hear from our gentleman in the house, Alexander. I know you have a different type of initiative, but yet I want to still understand, how it all intersects for you.
Wow, interesting. My fellow panelists are doing some amazing things out here. So for me, I'd say the reason why, first of all, I do what I do is I think I consider myself a born problem solver. So in tech, we are all about solving problems, observing environment and solving problems. And that's why we do what we do. But I'd say I've been privileged enough to hold leadership positions, even in, I don't know if I could call like youth leadership in places like church, informal or formal, where you have all these people, men and women you are leading, they owe you nothing, and you can't just, there's no way you can just have men alone. You both genders, everybody included within and moving along with that. So like that's a source of a lot of lessons on leadership and inclusion and just keeping everybody together. But apart from that, I think I've lived my life with a lot of awareness. So being a son, having a mom who is a teacher, and getting to experience what being a teacher is, how it takes a toll on them. Teachers have so much to do, and just observing how she has to balance all that, being a mother, being a husband, and it's been crazy. I've even witnessed seasons of her getting sick and all because of how all these things are taking toll on her. So awareness of being a brother. I have 2 sisters, and of course a lot of other say friends or cousins who are around my life. And again, down to being I have a daughter. My firstborn child is a daughter. Getting to also have a daughter, it's just something special, and I can't explain what it feels to a father when you have a daughter and you are seeing them grow and you are aware of how the world is and all the inequalities, then on top of it being a husband and which has also taught me so many lessons. So 2017 is when I got married. I think later in the year or early 2017, my wife was pregnant with our daughter, and she lost her job in the I don't know if it's probably third trimester. And when I came to just process all this, I would realize it's the effects of pregnancy, and you probably maybe your speed of how you work and all those things, maybe you won't be as productive as normally you would be, and getting to the reality that this is the root cause of why she was let go, her employment, and all the bitterness I had to go through with that. And at the same time, I was already a founder, and I think I had very few staff at that time, say 5, maybe 1 or 2 were women in my team. So that experience for me was painful and hurtful. And I think it took me a long time to be able to reconcile all of that. So going through that experience of losing a job simply because you are a woman and you are pregnant, and this sudden change leads you to losing your job, and again getting my twin boys and getting to see how her life got to change completely. And it's like everything in your life stops and you have to focus on these children, and you have to somehow temporarily or even for a long time forget your dreams and your aspirations and just focus in being a mother. And if you're aggressive and you want to keep moving, I know women might feel that all this being married and having kids as sort of post what's going on for me, or me progressing my life. So these are some of the foundations that have really made me so aware. And right now, 50% of my team are women. And I'm very, 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 very aware in terms of how we get to treat women at the workplace, and especially even when they are expectant, post being expectant. I'm now very aware of the kind of privileges that they're not even privileges that you have to give, but humanly, that is just what it's right, because it's also a very important part of being human that they take care of. Yeah. So I would say that's what has really created my foundation in the interest in women leadership and inclusion across different spaces.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alexander. I feel like best father and best husband award goes to you today. But I love everything you said, because a lot of times, it's a lot of things that are only natural to women. Like you mentioned, pregnancy, like Jerry mentioned, period, things that are only natural to a woman's experience now becoming a crutch in her existence, now preventing her from occupying position that she deserves. It's just not fair. And so this is why we're having conversations like this, is because how do we understand that because you're a woman, because you have a different experience, doesn't mean that you don't deserve the same opportunities that your male counterparts do. And that's such a very interesting perspective. I love coming from that point of view of like seeing it happen to my wife, seeing it happen to people around me, confirmed the fact that I need to do better even in my own workplace, and I need to be an ally in that regard. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was really beautiful. Lula, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, wow, these are honestly beautiful, beautiful stories. So for me in particular, I grew up in Ethiopia, in Addis, and I went to an all-girls school for 13 years. So from pre-K to graduating 12th grade. So I've been surrounded with girls and women in my family as well. And I didn't particularly understand what it meant until I left that and I went into school for college in the university. and it was in the United States. And so I didn't really understand or like the struggles or anything because I was surrounded with girls. I was surrounded with ambitious girls. So it was a very competitive school, and we still had a lot of support also within the school, and a lot of women teachers as well. So there was almost like there was a cocoon in how we lived and we grew up. And I saw that being as a privilege as soon as I left that home. And so beyond that, I've been very much interested in education and programming as well, because I see how that is the very important pillar for anybody. And so I worked with all girls school from then on. It was not really intentional, but that is something that I ended up being gravitating towards. So when I was in the US, I worked with all girls school as well in middle school and high school. And then moving to Rwanda, I worked with girls again, all girls school STEM at Marinyundo Girls School. And it was also life changing because you're holding the future of the world anyway. So there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with it, that you feel like you have to provide them with every resource, every information that you possibly can, so that they are also well equipped to go into the world. And so whenever I go into these spaces, I think of what I've gotten in my surrounding as a little girl growing up, and being able to provide it as much as possible, and even in a better state than what I've gotten, because they have the ability to take it further than I did. So, and using arts and creativity is also to really utilize what you have, and you don't need to operate from a place of lack. You use what you have and you make the best thing that you can out of it. And so that has been my advocacy. Even with the arts and curating for other women, it's almost like become the woman you want to be, so that another person is also looking at you. It's not just about the information that you give them or the resources that you supply, but how can you best be the best you, and the woman that you want to become, and how can you tap into that authentically, whether it's art, whether it's anything that you're creating, how can you connect to it as deeply as possible, so that whoever is watching can also just resonate without you even having to say anything. So your mere existence really matters. And that has been my motto with all of the things that I've done, whether it's education, whether it's in arts, whether it's combining both. I think that's where our power resides. We have a lot of like the women instinct is there. So just tapping into that and making sure that you address it as much as possible, and you nurture it as much as possible, so you can bear fruit for not only yourself, but the next generation to come.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so beautiful. I love how you're using art and storytelling to tell women's stories that sometimes can be silent or are not represented in some spaces, but I love what you're doing with that. I love what you said about not coming from a place of lack, because whatever you have in your hands is enough for what you want to create. Thank you so much. I think, a very good way for us to even move on the conversation is, a lot of people are tired of hearing talk. It's like, okay, now what are we doing about it? How can we tangibly create impact on the different spheres of influence? And so I want to hear from, Chido here. Your initiative empowers young women in climate action and disaster management, right? And I think that these are some spaces that a lot of times women's voices are often silenced. And so what do you think, and in your opinion, how do you think we make sure that young women's voices are included in decision-making spaces in that field?
That's a really great question. And I think with Flames and Lilies, we're building the blocks to get to that point where we have a lot more women in decision-making positions, especially when it comes to environmental policies. There's been some research that's actually shown that when we have, there's a positive relationship between women leadership and positive environmental outcomes. So it's in the best interest of the world and of our societies to have more women leaders. So what we do at Flames and Lilies is we first hold capacity building workshops where we inform them about that. But within these workshops, we try and encourage them to be confident when they're speaking, when they are engaging in the space, in the subject matter. And one of the key modules that we give them is feminist participatory action research. What we want to do is we want to encourage them that as knowledge bearers, they can identify the issues in their communities, but they can also provide solutions to these issues. So what we've had so far from the different workshops that we've had 3 research papers produced and researched by these young women and girls. The youngest participant we had in our workshop was 13 years old. And I was a bit worried at first to think, will they understand these complex issues of climate? But she got it straight away. And she's like, okay, when I go back home, I want to do a tree planting activity. So it's things like that when we give them the information and we create the spaces for them to learn, but also to be confident in what they are saying. And I think what we hope that our initiative will do is that it will encourage other organizations to create these spaces and to highlight to young people that there are opportunities within the climate and sustainability sector. And one of the key opportunities is leadership and policy development. So if we start them from a young age where they can start to see what are some of the issues and what are some of the solutions, as they grow older, they can start participating in perhaps junior parliament. In Zimbabwe, we have junior parliament, we have junior local authorities, and they can take this up and start their own clubs. One of the great benefits of our organization is the high schoolers that we worked with are keen to replicate our workshops with their own Flames and Living School Club. So I think initiatives like that, it spurs up leadership capacities and desires in these young people, so much so that when they grow up, they can start to participate in these local and global initiatives. I know the Zimbabwean government has been investing in junior climate negotiators, and there are some women who are part of that. So I think initiatives like that, where there are intentional efforts to include young people in the decision-making processes. Obviously, we still need to increase the number of women in it, but it's a start. So I think initiatives like ours and working with different government organizations, but also partner organizations, is a really good way to ensure that we have more women being part of the decision-making processes.
Yeah. That is really, really profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to come to Mary here. Mary, you work to address the barriers preventing girls from accessing quality education, right? And I want to understand, of course, there's so many challenges that come with a girl not being able to access education. So, what do you think? What are the solutions that we can actually apply to overcome these barriers and create more opportunities for young girls, like in your initiatives, like what you're doing, but also just generally in our society?
Thank you so much for that question. Addressing girls' education is very broad.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of taking a girl to school and letting her be there. It entails a lot of things. And I can say most of the society norms that we have today, you see that men do not want to take girls in school because they feel it's just a matter of dropping a girl in school and that is it. It involves breaking the barriers. Girls walk long distances to school in our communities. And that is a very big challenge. As they go to school, there's a lot of things that await them. There are people who want to give them lifts like in our communities, but these lifts don't just come for free. They come with other strings attached. We also find challenges where the girls have limited access to education due to the socioeconomic statuses. You find that a girl who is living in poverty today is unable to access education or even transition from primary to secondary education, an issue that we are addressing, actually, which is a global issue today. If you look at the statistics, most of the girls in Africa are unable to transition from primary to secondary education. And you find in our community, a girl is sitting like 2 years because of poverty, is unable to go to the school. So these challenges trigger most of the girls to start getting married early as a solution to their problems. Some of them are even get early marriages. And for us to be able to address this issue, we have to invest into the girls' education. Investment into the girls' education is not just a one-man thing to do. It is for us all. It is for institutions, it is for the government. And as Motherly Heart, we are providing the scholarships and mentorship for the girls to excel in education. When you mentor a girl through her education journey, they come to understand themselves. They know what they want. They know who to look up to. Now we're dealing with the rural girls in Busia, and it's very hard to find someone living a city like Kampala to go and work with a vulnerable girl at a local level. But if we go there, we bring women who are different in our mentorship program. We bring women that they can look up to, women who can tell their stories and have been resilient, to give them hope, to inspire them, to keep thinking ahead of what they are seeing right now in the community. And we believe through this concept, they will be able to excel in education. As I said before, education is really broad. We need to advocate for the policies that support the girls' education. One of the policies that I really advocate for myself is providing reusable sanitary pads for the girls. Most of the girls miss school because they do not have access to menstrual products. You see, a girl is walking long distance to go to school, and on top of that, they're onto the periods. A period is not something that you can wake up and say, I cannot do without. It is natural. So breaking barriers into girls' education involves tackling issues to do with the menstrual health and hygiene, giving the women dignity, giving the girls dignity that they require to excel in education. We also see that most of the cases, we as people who are leading these organizations, we have like limited access to funding. So we struggle to provide the best that we can to these girls. So you find a girl is depending on us, and us too do not have these provisions. So we need a lot of people. We need to establish grants that can help grass-led women organization to excel, to continue providing what is needed for a girl at a lower cadre to excel in their education. We look at issues where the sociocultural barriers that trigger early marriages. On ground where we work, we see that most in a family that is having economic challenges, we find that most of them, they will favor a baby, not a baby, they will favor a boy child, because they have a belief that if you take a boy child to school, they will come back and support the family, as compared to when you take the girls to school. But this is not right. All of us deserve the equal rights and equal opportunities. So we should be able to strengthen the laws that limit that. We should be able to strengthen the laws against the child marriages, because if you're denying the girl a right to go to school, you are sending her automatically to go get married. I have a scenario in my community where one of the fathers believed in girls' education, but this time around it is the relatives and the mother that do not believe in girls' education. For them, they believed since they got married a little bit early, they should let the girls also get married. So this girl, it is very painful. After primary 7, and she was like 15 years old, the father, the mother and the grandmother convinced her to go get married. By the time the results came back, she had scored like 15. 15 is a second grade in Uganda, and it's quite a good mark. So by the time the results come back, they find her when she's already married and she's already pregnant. In exchange of petty things like soap, and the mother was given, I remember, 50,000 shillings. So we should be able to strengthen laws against child marriages and enforce these penalties, and also educate communities like these mothers about the economic benefits of keeping girls in school and supporting the girl child education. We also have issues where there is technology and digital where we work. Young girls are unable to harness from technology. They lack access to information. Finding a rural girl who has a smartphone is very difficult. Even connectivity to internet is very, very difficult. And this restricts their ability to implement innovative learning solutions. So for us to be able to accelerate change, we should invest in community digital hubs that give all girls equal access to learning and provide them like cost devices or internet access for the young women and girls to excel in education. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was super detailed. Thank you so much for all of those insights. We have a lot of things to chew on. We'll be having loads of comments coming in from like our Facebook Live and all of that. I want us to get into some of these questions, really, really great questions. So I think I want to start with Njeri on this particular question. It's a question from Lily on Facebook. And of course, your work through Beyond Borders for her is helping women in Mathare break through economic barriers. And this person is asking, how can organizations create inclusive environments that encourage women to take on leadership roles? So I would love to hear your take on this, Jerry. And please, we don't have that much time, so maybe let's, in 2 minutes or so, yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Kamsi, for that. And for that question as well. So one of the things that I find to be so profound is bridging the listening gap. I find the aspect of listening a very big issue when it comes to leadership. A lot of times we have so much to say, but who is there to listen to us? We can sit at those tables, we bring the foldable chairs that motivational speakers tell us to do, but then once we air out our opinions, who listens? Who gives us the opportunity to contribute to the implementation? So one of the things that I would champion for, especially when it comes to economic inclusion, and this is something that you're also doing with Beyond Borders for Her, no matter where that person is coming from, whether they're coming from Mathare or they're coming from uptown, just make sure that you find a way to listen to them. These people have so much to say if you listen. Again, also advocating for movement builders, being part of movement builders like Alliance for Women and Girls, which is a network of gender-focused organizations. So you are able to get a community of people who can also support you in championing some of the things that you're doing. Also, a lot of collaboration in terms of the work that you do in different areas. Sometimes you find that the reason as to why organizations are not effective is because we are not getting the right partnerships. So one of the things that you're also doing with the organization is looking at, if we are looking to implement this project, who else is doing it? Can we just consolidate efforts and then we'll solve the challenge? Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is really, really insightful. I have this question from Dismos KE. I want Lula to tackle this particular question. He or she asks, what role does mentorship play in empowering young African women to become future leaders?
Oh, plenty. I don't think I'll be, just from a personal experience, I don't think I'll be here without having mentors and people to guide me, or even just to champion and to just say, keep going, right? And I think it's very important. However, also access to them may be rare, right? You may not know where to go or how to start. And so I think the key thing that we can all do for ourselves also is to research, to continue to research, to find people that are doing similar things as us, and always seek out for collaboration. Sometimes mentorship does not have to be a level up. It can just be a horizontal as well. Look at the people who are doing what you are doing within your own environment and tap into that. And don't also limit yourself thinking that you're not there, because sometimes we also downplay what we want to do or how ambitious we could be according to where we see other people, and we tend to do that as well. And so sometimes mentorship can come from somebody younger, somebody new in the industry, but is really pushing the boundaries as well. And sometimes also being very reflective on what you feel like you lack or what you feel like you could actually learn from, and being very honest with yourself, whether it's the finance department or whether it is just organizing yourself, strategically positioning yourself in certain positions. Whatever the case may be as honest as you can be with yourself, and seek out the people who you feel like have mastered that in their own spaces. So sometimes industry does not have to match even to get that kind of knowledge. So be very open to learn. Read as much as you can, research as much as you can, and just don't neglect the horizontal connection that you have, because that's really what's going to bring you up.
Thank you so much. That was really, really insightful and profound. I think it's about just being proactive and not thinking that it has to be hierarchical. It could be your peers. It could be like people around you, just being open to be teachable. And I have one question here from Joe Kenya. I think this is perfect for Alexander to respond to, because I'm sure that he's trying to understand as a man, like what part he can play. So he asks, how can young men be better allies in championing women's leadership and inclusion? So let's hear from you, Alexander, on this.
Wow. So he's asking, how can young men be champions?
Be better allies and champion women's leadership and inclusion. How can they be involved?
Oh, great. So I think the first thing I would mention is more and more men. In terms of involvement, is we first of all just need to be aware of our environments, and aware of the truths that are there when it comes to women. You know, a lot of us men, I would say, we tend to live in our own ways or in our own spaces, and if you don't have the privilege of probably getting to listen deeply to what women go through in different spaces, then you will not be able to know. So the way men can get involved more is even listening to such conversations. What he is doing today is actually part of it. Trying to ask questions more, have conversations with sisters or with cousins out there, find out, speak to them, like how do you find your experiences in this other different in different things, maybe in the workplace or education. Have conversations where you are able to get real stories from different women, then empathize and think around yourself how you can be able to you can be helpful in that. And after you get to learn all these experiences from women and girls, share it with peers. Like when you're in men's spaces, feel free to share and talk about what women are actually going through. I'm not very sure if in men spaces men speak about what women go through, their experiences and all this. I'm privileged to have men friends around me who once in a while we share in what probably our daughters or our wives are going through, or looking at the world and trying to imagine what is this going to be for our daughters. Yeah, so I would summarize it as engage in conversations with women and girls, present yourself in spaces where conversations are being had. You can do some reading online and all that, create some curiosity, and above all, have more conversations with oh, and my daughter just walked in. Yeah, have conversations with men in men's spaces. Have conversations around what other women go through and brainstorm on how you can participate.
Yeah, that is amazing. Thank you so much. In fact, like it's like your daughter knew that you were talking about her future because she came in at just the right time. I love it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
yeah.
for sharing that. I think one of the things I've picked up from everything everyone has said is that, to be very honest, to accelerate action, to accelerate inclusion, you have to be involved. You have to find a way to be involved. You know, all of these people, all the panelists here today are involved in one shape or form, and it doesn't end with them. It's not until you have an initiative, that focused on women, that you're able to actually, be able to make an impact. It's from your little circles, from your community. Collaboration rather over competition. How can I be involved? How can I center women's stories? How can I tell women's stories? And I want us to just, wrap up with a final word from, everyone on this panel. Just a very, very quick final word, as we look ahead, into the future. What is one actionable step that each of us can take, regardless of our position, of our background, to help accelerate the inclusion of women in leadership roles within the next year? So I want us to just like rapid fire, just like one actionable step that each of us can take. And it could be not just us personally, it could be to the person who's listening to this, that they can take to be able to be part of this conversation and take it from words to actual tangible action. So let's hear from Tito first, and we just go from there.
I think one tangible action, building up from Alexandra, is to listen to each other's stories.
Yeah.
We can create spaces where we can come as women and as men, because when we think of gender equality, it's not just about the upliftment of women, but it's about creating societies where we are all equal, we can all come and be ourselves and show up as ourselves. So let's take steps to create those safe spaces for each of us.
Thank you for that. Lula?
I would say take ownership of your story and say it. No story is too little or too big. Use the opportunity to share with the people that are around you, and there are people who are going to listen and learn from you. So take ownership of it and make that lead the way.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Mary?
For me, I would say that we should invest into the girls' education, because it's not just education, it is also justice for women and men.
Yeah, thank you. Jerry?
I'd say bridge the leadership ambition gap, collaborate, create change together. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alexander?
Yeah, so I think what I would share is, and these are probably for fellow men, is to have more awareness. I remember when we were in Kigali, we were with Just Ivy in the same flight, and when going to the hotel, she mentioned something about what women and girls go out there, like go through out there, that there are spaces that you can't just walk into every day. And I felt the privilege that we have as men, which sparked something on just having more awareness. So for different men, let's have conversations with women around our lives, our wives, our daughters. Let's put in like a more keen listening ear and have that awareness. And when you have chances, get to allow your daughters to experience different spaces early. For example, I once in a while I go with my daughter to work, and we go to work for her to just feel this environment, this tech environment, exposing her to things that would be considered right now to be privileging men in terms of career and all that. Yeah. So more and more awareness of our spaces and what women and girls go through, and basically creating opportunities for experiences.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our amazing panelists for your insightful contributions today. I had such an amazing conversation. I feel like I've learned so much and I've taken so much from this conversation. I want to just share a few sentiments that we've gotten from some of our community, our audience on Facebook. Amani Joe says, when women lead, communities thrive. It's time to accelerate gender parity across all sectors. Way to go, Amani. Precisely that. Joe Mbaka says, empowering women in leadership isn't just about fairness, it's about unlocking Africa's full potential. Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into today's conversation. I really want us to take our conversation away from just words and just, oh, this was a nice Facebook Live or Instagram Live, to actually going into our spheres of influence and doing the work, collaborating, investing in women's futures, in women's education, in every way that we can contribute. Any contribution is very significant and can do very, very great many things from a very small place. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode of Young Africa Connects, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.